flashback came back. I remember I would like text you every 6 months. I'd have like a Naya, I don't know what to eat today. Like, I don't remember. Do you remember this? I would, yeah. I used to Snapchat you, and I was like, Naya, like, I don't know what diets to do. Like, all of them aren't working.
Oh,
You remember this? And you were like,
yeah.
oh, try this, try that, and like nothing was working. And it's so funny because it wasn't until I just did the stepped up methodology that I was actually healed.
Segue. Sorry, that's really. Sorry, what else did you want to say?
No, that's fine.
Because Naya, when she learned about the Step It Up methodology, she's like, that's exactly how I got healthy. So tell us
Yeah.
more about that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like most about the Step It Up methodology is there's no calorie counting, because my doctors, when I was anorexic in recovery, they said that I either had to go to a clinic or I had to count my calories every day, take pictures of my food, prove that I had 1,000 calories a day at least, and that really just made me focus down. I would read every label, I'd read everything I'd eat, and it wasn't healthy because, believe it or not, a lot of healthy foods, like fresh foods, you can't count the calories necessary. So I was eating like protein bars. I was like, this is 200 calories a day, and I can add that to this and this and this. And it was really terrible mindset because, again, I wasn't focusing on my health. I was focusing on calories. Yeah. And I also started moving my body a lot more in healthy ways, not in extreme weightlifting, not in running a marathon and all of those things. And I think that really, really helped me get healthy.
Yeah, and that's so interesting you say that because I feel like a lot of diets, a lot of, fad diets too, like it's all about like do this for this amount of time and then you're good, eat only these foods. And it's like that's not really going to give you the long-term results that you've been able to keep now, right?
Yeah, because you obsess over it momentarily, and then you eventually fall off because of either the effort or
Wrong mentality, wrong reason.
wrong reasons. If you're trying to do it because you think that that's how you should look beautiful, then you're doing it for all the wrong reasons.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I just remember that too. Like I remember going through that phase of like not moving and then moving my body for like purposeful, in a purposeful way.
Yeah.
That's not like, oh, I'm just going to exercise today because no one likes doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say your relationship with food today is like?
So today, I think pretty good. I think that's the first time I can say that in a really long time. I eat when I'm hungry. I eat healthily. I eat all organic foods. I eat mostly fresh foods, no GMOs, anything like that. And I also cut dairy out of my diet because I noticed it was affecting me negatively.
Except when you're eating croissants.
Except when I'm eating croissants. French dairy, I don't know why, but it didn't really affect me in the same way. I could eat cheese there, and I was so happy because usually I get immediately nauseous when I eat dairy, and it was amazing.
I don't know. I'm just being silly. Just like, 'cause I get it. So like your general diet though is like dairy free.
Yeah.
Whole foods.
Yeah, but I don't obsess over it.
Yeah.
Like I eat what I want to eat, and I think but that's only because I've come to a point where what I want to eat is truly what my body's craving.
This is a really big point because people don't realize that you can reset your taste buds.
Exactly. Yeah.
It takes time, but that's what we do in the program as well as we show you how to reset your taste buds. Because when you're in some kind of addiction mode,
Right.
and that can be either extreme deprivation or overeating or the binging and purging, the hippocampal pathways atrophy, and you actually don't have access to what you're describing right now, which is like, I know what my body needs.
Right.
And because the hippocampal pathway atrophies, you actually can't sense what you need. So you're just in an addiction mode.
Yeah.
And sometimes our intellect will override that. Like, this is what I should be eating.
Right.
And so I can't even feel what my body needs. And then there's another side to it where you can get confused. It's like, well, I want ice cream. So is that like a need that my body has, or is that something that I need because I have an emotional dysregulation?
Right. When I think about that, I'm like, if I'm craving ice cream, which I usually don't crave, but I'm like, maybe I need calcium. Or if it's something else, I like kind of see what's in the food that possibly I'm craving.
That's brilliant. And another thing is like, I know people will say like, oh, but I do crave a cheeseburger or I do crave ice cream. And it's like, well, first of all, your body isn't actually craving like you're saying. But second of all, there's ways to make healthy versions of that, right? Like you and I make banana ice cream, which is great. Or you can make like a fruit smoothie, you know what I mean? And like freeze it. You know, there's so many other options, and I think people have such a limited mindset when it comes to creation and how you can create these things that you maybe crave in a healthy, nutritious way.
I don't know. I don't know if it's so much as a limited mindset as it is like just not exposed to how to make something other than a hamburger.
Right.
Like maybe, or they might not know that like, well, venison might be healthier or bison might be a healthier option or maybe even turkey or I don't know, if you're vegan, a veggie burger that's made with certain ingredients that are not genetically modified or, there's so many factors to this. But I'm not sure if it's limited belief systems as much as it is lack of creativity or not even like realizing what else is possible.
Yeah.
So it's really about education. I mean, it took us a long time to figure it out. Maybe not. I don't know. You guys your
Grew up
parents.
with it.
Yeah, but it's so funny. We grew up with these parents, and we both ended up having the other odds of the spectrum disorders.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I'm sorry.
I'm not. It taught me so much about the person I am today. I wouldn't be who I am today right now if it had happened to me. So I'm grateful for the experience.
Well, what's it like to be in your skin, Nyala?
Oh, that's an interesting question. What's it like to be in my skin? I feel comfortable, I guess.
Convincing.
I feel like I'm not in pain. I used to be in a lot of pain like all the time because of my eating disorder, and I didn't even realize it. And I used to have all these issues that I said earlier. Like I would get so lightheaded. Like I'd stand up and my vision would be black, and I'd have to stand there for like 10 seconds and be like, whoa, let me get my balance because I don't want to faint. And now I can like do all of these things so much easier. I have much more stamina. My vision is even better, which is a funny thing. But when I was anorexic, I got really bad brain fog too. I would forget things. And so I think where I am right now, I'm really comfortable and happy with how far I've come.
It's amazing.
That's really beautiful.
No.
That's incredible. And you're going to be going to college in fall.
Yeah, I'm going to be in NYU.
Yeah. Do you find like you do the comparison thing still? Or, I mean, I think we all do to a certain degree, but I'm just curious like how much of your energy, time, focus it consumes.
I think a lot less because I have always, as an artist, I always saw beauty in different things. And I don't think that beauty is necessarily one refined point of something. I think that if you look at someone, there are beautiful things that you can find within them. And I think that that's not necessarily the value that I particularly follow anymore is, as I said, like the eye of society. Like I'm not trying to fit that as much. And I think that's really helped me because when you disregard that, you rid a lot of hate from what's influencing you.
That's amazing. So what are you studying?
Biomolecular and chemical engineering as well as entrepreneurship.
Amazing.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun.
So like if you ever decide to have children, how would you raise them? Like what would be the right thing to do knowing what you know now?
Definitely not sugar, but I don't think I want to put any kind of food in a negative lens because, as Penelope said, that can spark a lot of curiosity. As I remember when I was a kid, me and my brother would play outside, and one time, just because my parents said, don't do it, he stuck a stick in a hole in the ground and got attacked by a nest of hornets, and they just, like, chased us around, and I think of it in the same philosophy. Like, I don't want to make it seem necessarily like this ominous thing that is like, oh my gosh, like what is that? Like I kind of want to try it. Like same with drugs and how we treat that in our culture. It's almost like, ooh, like what is that to a lot of people? And I think it's more about education about it.
I agree. Yeah, beautiful. I tried to educate you. Remember those little charts I made?
She did charts, but she also did shames. And there was also lots of constriction, like, you can't have any treats this week. You can't have any treats this week. You can only have one treat. It went from one treat a day to one treat a week to one treat a month. And it was just confusing because it was so little. And I also think I had like self-image issues as a very little child because I always say this, it always relates to your parents too. Like she had some of her own self-image issues, and I think I might have taken them on just by being around her. So I think that definitely played a role in like me picking my skin when I was like 8, or like, like looking at my stomach weird, even though I was literally 8.
I think it's really important to not look at sweets or foods as like a treat. And I think that frames it in a bad way, because then if you're withholding it, it's like, oh, you're not good enough for it.
Yeah.
And so I think that I would rather it would be like part of sweets, fruits, all of those things are part of your diet, not necessarily a treat, is how I think of it.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. Really smart. We parents, we try to do it well. We always screw it up.
I think it's amazing that we have these things that happen to us because I feel like it gives us an opportunity to teach the next generation of our families different things that we can create humans that don't have to go through those same experiences.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I was doing, but I wasn't.
Hey, you took a step up. She took a step up. Your mom was
There you
morbidly obese and died of obesity at age 50. And, you're going to be 50 in a few years, and you're not dead. And you're very healthy. So you are changing. We created Step It Up because we want to help millions of people overcome obesity because we've lost a lot of people to obesity, right? So, I feel like we are doing something amazing with this.
For sure, and I feel like anorexia, belongs inside of it too. And it really, a Step It Up is for anyone who has issues with food, because we really want to heal our relationship with food, and that's really what we are all working on.
Yeah.
And it's not like we've achieved it, right? It's just every time, like we had the most amazing lunch. It was like a celebration.
So yummy.
So good.
So good. I had so much fun making it. I hadn't cooked for like a week, so I was like ready to.
It was amazing.
I poured all my love.
Keep her out of the kitchen for a week, and she'll come back with something incredible.
Yeah.
So do you guys think it's generational? So I don't want to believe it's generational, because I believe in epigenetics. And I think that there are like very few genetic anomalies that state that there is something like cancer, like BRCA2 or BRCA1 gene that have like a specific cancer anomaly. And so I believe in epigenetics, which means that your environment influences the genetic expression of your DNA. And so part of me feels like it's not generational, but I can't also deny the fact that it is generational. And so part of me is a behavior. Or is it actual genes? Or is it a combination of both? I'm just curious to hear what you guys think about that.
I think it's a combination of both. I think I'm also a firm believer in what is it called?
Epigenetics.
Epigenetics. I've not particularly well educated on it, but I've read some things, and I think that even knowing that these things like run in your family can kind of cause you to have a mindset that is like kind of how you will end up. As someone who comes from generations of obese people, and I've never had that problem, I think that it's not a given, because my cousins that have come from my grandparents, my great-grandparents, who have all been obese, they're also obese, but my family was raised by my mother and my father, who had these different lifestyle around food. Me and my brother, neither of us really struggle with obesity, and I think my struggle with anorexia more so came from cultural expectations.
Interesting. So I would have to say, I would think that your environment definitely plays a role, but I'm a very big believer that we control everything we put in our bodies. And so I am a firm believer that whatever you make your decisions, right? And you can say generational trauma. You can say generational patterns. Our family has obesity as well as a big problem. A lot of our family members are obese, still obese. Some of them aren't. Some of them lost weight. Some of them died from obesity. So I struggle with obesity, you struggle with obesity, but I don't think it's an excuse or a thing to lay on and be like, oh, well, my family's obese, and so that's why I'm obese, because I think a lot of people use that as an excuse, and they kind of like use that as a crutch to go on with life, say, oh, well, that's a family thing. I've known people who were obese and were like, oh, my family's obese, and because I'm obese, when I turn 18, I'll just get, bariatric surgery, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? And so I think for me, it's like, you get to choose every day. You choose the first step you make when you get out of bed. You get to choose that step, whether it's into the gym, into a workout, or eating breakfast. It's kind of your choice, but I believe we all have a choice at the end of the day, and so you determine your future and your health, no one else.
I think it can be hard for kids, though. Like, if it's just like the life that's normalized for you, then it can be very hard to see otherwise, especially if it's just what your family has in the house. Like, not everyone has the ability to go like get their own groceries, and a lot of families won't support a child if they're like, "Oh, this is what I want," because they're going to be like, "Oh, you have an eating disorder, you're not happy, it's like something's like wrong with you, like what's wrong?"
And I think it's, our jobs to educate more people about these
Yeah.
things so that we can change those family dynamics, because that is a legitimate issue that we have in this world. And I think we need to, the world needs to do a better job in educating families and children about health.
Absolutely. I mean, the last couple of years, we realized that children got their major nutrition, their meal of the day at school.
Yeah.
And when the schools were shut down, there was a huge problem for kids.
Yeah.
And so you're right, access is a huge problem. And if you don't know any better, then how do you do any better? It's like, okay, I have this problem, but guess what? My doctor has no nutritional education or very little nutritional education. It's not really part of their medical doctorate,
Yeah.
surprisingly. And so if their parents didn't cook, I mean, like your parents made all their food from Whole Foods.
Yeah. Or we grew it.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys literally were raised on Whole Foods, so you learned that through growing up, and most of the people out in the world are not.
Yeah, especially when you go to the middle of the country. I was telling Penelope this because my family is from Texas, and if you go to a grocery store there, the produce section is like a quarter of the size of like this room. It's so small. They have apples. A lot of them don't even have organic foods. I was traveling across the country. I did a cross-country trip last summer, and in Oklahoma, I was going like because I don't eat fast food. My brother is fine with eating fast food. And I went the whole time across Oklahoma, did not find any single thing that I could eat.
Wow.
No lettuce, no anything. There was like watermelon, and there were some other things, but really nothing I could eat. And I think it's really terrible, the access. Yeah.
Do you think obesity and anorexia are two sides of the same coin? Do you think that they're the same thing, just expressed differently? I'm really curious to hear your perspectives on this.
I think they have a lot of similarities. I think that not necessarily two sides of the coin. I mean, one is overweight, one is underweight, and they have similar health issues. I think they are both manifestations of internal issues and cultural expectations and so many other things. But really, I think the similarity is an eating disorder. I think that if you don't have a healthy relationship with food, either one of these things can happen. And I think a lot of people struggle in the intermediate. I think some people have let's say, a regular weight, somewhere in the middle, but they're both anorexic and they both have a binge eating disorder. They starve themselves and they eat a lot. They starve themselves and they eat a lot. And I see that a lot with athletes, where you don't eat anything, and then you eat so much that like some people even vomit because they're just so hungry, which is starvation. And then because of that, you bloat, and then you think you're overweight, and then you starve yourself again. And I think it's a cycle, and I think that there's a spectrum, and I think that a lot of it is the same issue and stems from alike places.
Interesting.
So when you look in the mirror,
Yeah.
do you worry about oh, are my cheeks getting fat, or like do you have sometimes like those issues? Because I know when you've been really skinny, when I've been really skinny, and I gain weight, I kind of start to be like, oh my gosh, pants are tight, or like, oh, you see a picture of yourself and you're like,
Yeah.
I didn't know I had that curve.
Yeah.
So I don't know, do you have, I mean, it's normal. They don't have to be anorexic to have that feeling, but I'm just curious how you're relating to yourself these days.
Not so much anymore, because I've been at a very steady weight and a steady physique for a few months now. I think actually almost a year. I've been about the same. But I remember when I was anorexic, I would have these where I would eat food and I would phantom start feeling like a double chin and start feeling like my cheeks were getting bigger and start feeling like I was gaining weight immediately as soon as I started eating food, even though that's not real.
That is so fascinating, because as a former obese person, I will look in the mirror and think, oh my gosh, I look like I'm 300 pounds and I have 5 chins. And I'm like, wait, that's not true. Like the next day. So it's funny because like you have phantom, you used to have that phantom thing, and I
Yeah.
have phantom. Oh my gosh, I'm a 300 pounds, even though I've lost 130 pounds. You know, so I
Yeah.
have like this interesting how the opposite sides work together. It's very interesting.
But do you think that because I have had like body image issues, thinking the same thing that you guys are talking about, and your mom and dad also having those issues, like, do you think that that's played into these things you guys are expressing? Because I feel like it's just a mirror of what has been going on inside of us. And I can't speak, of course, for your mom and dad, but from what you said, it sounds like there's a similar kind of pattern there.
I'm not sure.
I mean, not to play the blame game, but like just goes back to that generational issue and like where the healing is. Like where's the pulse of the healing? And that's really what I'm like looking for, so to say.
I think honestly it came from like me. I think it came from within. I think that of course they affected me. But I think that I also saw that and I saw how unhappy they were when they were obese and I saw how much they struggled with it and I still see how even if they're really fit, even if they eat extremely healthy, they look in the mirror and they're like, oh my gosh, like do I look fat today? Like, oh my gosh, like did I gain weight? I feel like I've gained weight. Like all of these things and I'm like, no, you haven't. And I think that it's really helped me reflect on weight differently, seeing that and having so much love for these people that I see struggling with that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I have similar, like, I have so much love and compassion for people who are overweight. But I also have a mentality behind it where I'm like, I know how miserable you feel in your skin because I used to feel that way. And I actually just want to help you because I know how. You know what I mean? So for me, it's more of like this drive of like, I just want to educate you on like why some of the things you're doing are going to kill you because I don't want you to die because I care about your life more than a lot of people on this planet, a lot more than food industries. And so that's kind of my take on that.
So what would you say are like the main ingredients? Like for people who are listening right now, you might be struggling with anorexia or bulimia or binge eating or obesity, you know, or you're a mom of a daughter and you're trying to do the right thing. What would you say are the main ingredients? Like if we were baking a cake, you know, what would be like the main ingredients of the healing process to make peace with food and to love being in your skin? I would say one ingredient I would want to add would be acceptance. Like true acceptance. Like there's a scale of acceptance. 0 being no acceptance, like I hate myself, this sucks, this has to end. There's a little bit of acceptance in that. So hold on. So no acceptance is denial. And then there's like the gradients on the way up to 100%. And 100% is like, okay, this is where I am today, this is where I want to be, and I accept where I am so much so that I can actually take action. So that's the spectrum of acceptance. But acceptance would be one ingredient.
I say action. So take the first step, like right now, today, tomorrow. I always hear this, and I used to do this all the time. I'd always say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or like in a week I'll start that diet, or in a week I'll do this. It's like, no. If you say you're going to exercise, do it right when you say it. Don't say I'm going to do it tomorrow at 7 a.m. Do it now, and then do it tomorrow at 7 a.m., and then do it again the next day. And so I think consistency and action kind of play in one. So just do it. Take a step every day. Take a step every day in the right direction.
I think I would say compassion. I really think that if you see someone struggling, to love them is not to let them harm themselves, but it's also not to shame them for who they are and what they're doing, because I don't think that's helping anyone and it's making the situation worse. Because when people would be like, eat a hamburger, I'd be like, okay, fine, you just don't accept me. I'm not going to do anything about it because why would I? Because you're not going to accept me either way. Why is me changing going to change that in your eyes?
And there's so much shame in the anorexic industry and anorexic world and the obese world where people hate obese people. They say they're terrible people and that they're horrible. And it's like, no, they're not. They just actually need help just as much as the anorexic people do.
Yeah.
And maybe they're both they're both like opposite ends of the spectrum, but they both need love and compassion and education to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So I'd say another ingredient would be love, which is kind of similar to compassion. Like really true love. And true love can also be righteous. Like, you know, when you love someone, you can also just be like, cut it out. You know, like,
Yeah.
so that's our little cake. I think that's a breakthrough cake right there.
That's a breakthrough cake. I like that.
Acceptance, action, compassion, and love.
Love that.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that involve, are in this cake that you guys have found?
Movement, because movement doesn't have to be like a treadmill, because treadmills are boring. Movement needs to be more intentional, I feel, and moving emotion through you physically. You and I did a workout the other day.
Yeah.
Gosh, what did you think about it?
It was so much fun.
Did you feel an emotional release physically and mentally?
I did. It was like a mix between like dance and Pilates. And I feel like when you have the right movement, it really helps you feel your body. Lets you feel grounded in your body. And I think that's really necessary because it allows you to have, one, feel the emotions in your body. Two, it allows you to maybe feel what's hurting in your body or any weakness or strength in your body. I think all of those are necessary.
And sound, right? Like we moved our sound. We used sound like in our voices to like
Oh,
move
yeah,
emotion,
we did.
too, which was
Yeah.
interesting, but it really helps. It really helps.
Yeah.
So in the Step It Up program, our movement practice is not only going to give you a workout to burn calories, but it's going to be the flavor that they're talking about, which is where we learn to move our emotions. It's like an emotional regulation practice where we sound and we move and we sweat and we have fun and we dance.
I have to correct her. Not calories. We're gonna burn the fat away. That's what we're doing.
And we're shaping, right? So
Shaping and toning.
yeah, anyway, it has to be fun or else it's not going to work.
Do it, yeah. If you do it for like the pump or something like that, or the runner's high, then it isn't for the right reason.
Yeah, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, people.
Judgy.
Yeah.
Okay, so what advice do you ladies have for young women out there who are struggling with food?
I say, look inward. I think it's similar to an addiction. I think I would treat someone with an eating disorder the same as I would treat a smoker. It's killing you slowly. It's harming you. You're not taking care of your body. And I think the only way to do that is to love yourself and show compassion towards your situation or whatever is leading you to do these things, and prioritize yourself, definitely.
I would say for anorexic people and obese people, I mean, I haven't been anorexic, but one of the biggest things I always say is get out of your bed and get out of your head. And I think that applies to absolutely everyone, because when you're stuck in your head and you're stuck in bed, you're not in the right mind place to actually be able to think straight, right? And so I think if you just get out of bed and you go outside and look at the nature, actually feel the leaves and put your feet in some dirt, it'll actually get you grounded so that you can actually have some logical thoughts. I know, there's studies that have shown that increases serotonin levels and all these other amazing things. But I just really encourage people to get grounded and then make that decision to help yourself and love yourself in a way that's actually going to improve your health, and not just loving yourself by accepting where you are, but actually making a change.
Amazing advice. And what about advice would you give to the moms out there who want to be a good example for their kids?
Don't comment on your body. Don't in front of your children be like, oh, I feel like I look fat today, or oh, like, if you eat a food, you're gonna like, this is gonna make me skinny, or talk about anything like that, or comment on what your children are necessarily eating in context with their weight.
That's really challenging. Because, so for example, like let's say the parent doesn't say anything about, would you feel that they were worried about something? Would that be, I would think it would be more confusing, because I know you guys, you don't miss a beat. I mean, there's like nothing that can be hidden from either of you. So I'm just like painting a picture here, because like, let's say I'm feeling fat. I don't like the way the clothes are fitting today, and I don't say anything about it. I'm probably going to be a little off. Would you rather know why I'm off, or would you rather me not to say anything because you think that saying it, naming it, is causing the eating disorder? And I'm genuinely curious.
I think it shouldn't be named like that, because I think that as soon as you do that the kid might be aware that you're not feeling comfortable in your skin, but they won't see weight necessarily as a bad thing, which isn't health. And I think that it's going to make them, like Penelope was saying, like look at themselves and be like, oh, like this isn't fitting right, or like, oh, I don't look like my mom or this person, when especially as a child, you're not supposed to look like that. You're not supposed to have these curves. You're not supposed to be that skinny. You're not supposed to have a tiny waist because you're a kid.
I also think that brings it back to like as parents, as moms, you have to love yourself before you even have kids, because
Yeah.
why would you have children if you hate yourself, right? So, and no, I really mean that. I mean, of course there are days everyone struggles, all right, but I mean, if you have a deep enough struggle that your children could notice, you really need to work on it ASAP, because it really reflects on your children even at very young ages, even if you don't realize it. And if you don't work out those problems with yourself, I mean, obviously it's going to affect your relationship with your husband and your relationship with your children and your friends and your work. And it's so important to have that confidence and feel the inner beauty within and without.
Yeah.
And so I think that those are really important things to make sure that you're 100% good on before you even have a family.
Because kids copy everything you do.
Everything.
So if that's something that you're putting out, they're definitely taking it in and also putting it out.
Thank you. Did you hear it from the mouth of the babes? These girls are awesome.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to ask, Penelope?
Honestly, anything I want to ask?
say to Nyala? Like
Just that I'm proud of you. Like, I've seen Naya grow so much since we were little. It's been really cool, actually, to have a friend. She's more like a sister. To have a sister, I never had a real sister, so she's my real sister. To have a sister like from like age so tiny. Like, I've known you longer. I can almost say that I've known her longer than her own brother. Okay, so. But almost.
True.
We're 3 years off.
3 years.
3 years off. Isn't that crazy?
It's true.
Crazy. To me, that's crazy.
It is. She's. I've definitely known her longer than my two youngest siblings. So
See, that's insane to me.
definitely a sister.
But I think to see the changes and also growing up with you, like our moms are so similar, and to be able to grow up and see her evolve into this beautiful woman she is today has been the most amazing process, because, you know, she was there when I was obese, and I was there when you were anorexic, and we
Yeah.
were both really struggling. And it's funny because I think there were also a lot of things, like I didn't even know some of the things you just said.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things behind closed doors that we didn't experience with each other, because that's how secretive these things can be.
Yeah, because it was almost shameful. Like, I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want you to, like, look at me differently.
Exactly, and I didn't want you to literally look at me because I was disgusted with myself. So it's interesting how it plays into friendships. But we're both, like, in this beautiful place now where we get to, like, share our lives together. We're both in healthy places now
Yeah.
with our bodies, and we get to actually show each other our full selves now because we're not afraid of hiding who we are or our stories. And I think that's really beautiful.
That is so beautiful. Aww.
Anything else you want to say? Any last questions or things you want to say?
I'm not as good as the sentimental things as these two. But I would like to say that it has been an incredible journey, and it's really interesting to experience things with a person and then hear how they're going through the exact same experiences that you are. And I think that in me and Penelope's journey together, we've kind of diverged into opposite ends of the spectrum in a lot of manifestations, such as this one. And I think to love each other through it and support each other through it and not shame each other, but also at the same time try to help each other be healthier and better versions of ourselves is an extremely important thing and a beautiful thing as well.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. And to just encourage, like, anyone out there, like, you guys, like, people can agree to disagree, right? And people can, like, have differing opinions and still love each other. And I think that's lacking in the world. And so we want to be examples, right? Like, if you don't have the exact same opinion as the same person or a different experience, you should still love them unconditionally.
And if you're, and, like, especially, like, also never hate anyone or judge anyone for, like, their looks.
Compassion always
It's
wins.
compassion. Like, when I was really anorexic, like, even though Penelope was overweight, like, she wasn't shaming me or she wasn't, like, hating on me for being skinny, which I got a lot from, like, a lot of people. And when she was overweight, like, I was never shaming her. I was never, like, saying anything harmful. Like, it was only love. It was only compassion and only support. And, I think once you taint that, it's both harms the person and their ability to recover.
Yeah, so if you have any friends out there who are struggling with obesity or anorexia,
Yeah.
take some advice from these people who've succeeded. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm so grateful to have Naya on as a guest from New York.
Oh.
I love you with my whole entire being. You're my favorite person in the entire world. I hope you know that. And I'm just so grateful to be able to have our friendship and our connection and just have these experiences and shared experiences.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will be putting Naya's Instagram handles and all her socials down below so that you guys can go follow her and watch her journey through life.
Woo.
Thank you.